Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic show. It's episode 357, and Happy New Year, folks. I've made it to 2019. I never thought I was going to get there, but I did. I'm still in holiday mood, folks. So I've got my great co-host here, Cindy. Hopefully she'll be able to keep me under some control. Cindy, she looks doubtful. Cindy, would you like to introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Happy 2019. Good to see that you're here. As Jonathan said, I'm Cindy Nicholson, and I'm from thecoursewhisperer.com. And where I help people who want to create online courses. So if you're thinking that you want to put something together this year, finally get that course out there, that's what we're here to help you do.
Yeah, it's all about WordPress, entrepreneurship, learning entrepreneurship, and getting your membership learning management system up. Hopefully using the power of WordPress. I would advise you to do that. Before we go, Cindy, how's the new Mac? Cindy had an IT emergency at the end of last year, and she bought a new Mac. How's it going, Cindy? With
all is good so far, other than I had an update just before we connected, Jonathan, and when I clicked on the update, it said 45 minutes to update. So I had a little bit of a heart attack, but it only took like 20 minutes, so we're good. But
you're a very brave lady, aren't you?
I know. I wished I had cleaned things up on my old Mac before I moved over to the new Mac. Now I just have transported all of the junk over. So I do have to take some time to clean things up, because it's amazing how much stuff you keep on your desktop.
It certainly is. So, folks, what we're going to be discussing this week? Well, we're going to be discussing 7 ideas to take your successful membership to the next level. I wrote a recent blog post. There will be links in the show notes to it, and I thought we'd done a reasonably job, and Cindy said we should talk about that, so I took that as high praise. But before we go into it, folks, I want to talk about one of our great sponsors, and that's Kinsta Hosting. And we've been with Kinsta for over a year now. We host the WP-Tonic website with them, being absolutely blown away with their upper management and their support staff. Very approachable people, and they only specialize in WordPress hosting, and they really know what they're doing. They use Google Cloud as their backbone, but they offer tremendous 24/7 support. And what I mean support is that their support staff really are superbly trained and know what they're talking about. So if you do have a problem, you're not talking to a junior level kind of tech. You're talking about somebody where they're a real tight team. It's big enough to have all the technology, small enough to still really care. And they offer all the bells and whistles. They offer any form of modern PHP level. Why should you care about that? It will make your site much more quicker. They offer staging sites, one-click backup, superb interface. If you're interested, go to kinsta.com, find out more about them for your own website or for your client's website. You're not going to be disappointed with Kinsta. So, off we go. So create course bundles. What did you think of this one, Cindy?
Well, I wanted you to kind of, I think when it comes to membership sites, everyone has a different perspective as to what it means by having a membership site. And so when you're, one of your suggestions in terms of how to up-level your membership site is to create course bundles. I kind of wanted to get your perspective as to what did you mean by course bundles, and how does that kind of enable you to up-level your membership site?
Well, because fundamentally, this won't apply for somebody starting out. That's why in the title it says successful, because hopefully you've been at this for a while. So you should have, what you started off. And we've talked about this a fair bit in 2018. Is don't throw the kit, your first course, the first course you're starting off with, don't throw the kitchen sink. Offer every option, try and cover every possibility, because you're concerned that you should offer value. We're advised not to do that, but we're looking at people that have been running it and built up audience. So they might have started off with their first course, which could have been and then progressed, built separate modules or built separate courses to that. So that gives the opportunity of bundling if other courses into a major offering. Is that making sense?
So within the membership site, you're saying kind of bundle the topics or the courses that might be appeal to different groups within the bundle, within the membership. Is that what you mean, Jonathan?
Yeah, kind of that. You could do that, but you could do a special promotion of a Cyber Friday or a Cyber Monday offering where you bundle some of your other courses into a limited time offer to your existing members, because as we all know, it's easy to sell. If you built up trust and value to your existing audience, it's much easier to sell to that audience than a new audience, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so how would you go about choosing what bundles to put together?
Well, that's why you need to ask your audience, don't you? That's another thing we've touched, and I'm just as guilty as the next person of this. Don't get me wrong here, folks. I'm just as guilty of not following my own advice as the next person, but we're all mortal. And doing some research and asking people in general, we all talk about doing it, but a lot of us don't, do we, Cindy? I don't know what that's about. It's just you get pumped up and you think, let's just do it. You really want to step back and ask your audience. What are they looking for? The only thing I would say about that is I was listening to a podcast over the holiday break, and it was another English person, and I'll make sure that there's a link in the show notes to this particular podcast. But it's about selling, and we're talking about the actual science, because this guy was at Cambridge University, and he was talking and they were saying is that it's like 101 of selling. If you're a professional sales individual, is that you ask your potential customer, what are their problems? But what you forget is they get a lot of people asking that, so they tend to have a kind of canned reply. And what you need to do is use methodologies and methods to actually find out what is the real problem. You gotta find out what's the real problem, Cindy. What do you think is my real problem, Cindy?
I thought you were going to go there, Jonathan.
No, you're too intelligent, too wise, folks. She's not going there. So did that make any sense, Cindy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, rather than wonder, you always need to find out what are people struggling with. And sometimes they'll give you the answer that you think they want you to hear. But by drilling down a bit more, you can really uncover the real, true problems, what people are struggling with. But taking the time to do that just clarifies so much for everyone, and can save you so much time down the road. If you know that you're on the right track.
So on to the next. Create multiple subscription tiers. What did you think of this one, Cindy?
I think this is a good one. I think this enables kind of people. So creating multiple subscription tiers, which I'm assuming what you mean by that, Jonathan, is just having kind of like a basic level, a pro level and a premium level, having 3 different entry points into the membership. Is that's what you mean by having the multiple tiers?
Yep. But keep it reasonably simple, folks. I've had some clients. There's one particular one that comes to mind that had the most I've been doing this for a while, Cindy. I'm not the sharpest tool in the toolbox, but I'm not the bluntest either. And I didn't understand. I couldn't make head or tail of his membership levels and what he was offering in them. You needed an Excel spreadsheet to understand the levels, if you understood. And I actually I had to get a friend of mine who's a really fantastic programmer to come in, because I kind of looked at it 3 times. And when I gave a kind of very subtle hint to the client that it might be advisable to make these memberships a little bit more easier to understand, he got very, I'm struggling for the right word, got very, I am struggling for the right word. He didn't go down too well, put it that way, right? So don't go bonkers over this, but having subscription tiers is a good idea, but you really got to, and it's kind of linked to number 1, create school course bundles, is you got to offer the clear value proposition in the upgrade must be obvious, and making things simple and obvious is a lot of hard work, Cindy. You know, it's really, really easy to make things extraordinarily complicated, but it's a lot more work to make them simple. Does that make any sense?
That is the essence of what I do, Jonathan, right? People come and they have these big grandiose plans, and it's really about distilling it down and making it simple. So that's a super important point. I think if you are going to be creating these tiers, it is to be super clear as to what the added value is by upping it up into a different tier, and be super clear, because I've seen them as well on web pages, and you see they've got the 3 different columns, and you're not really super clear as to what is different about one versus the next. So Jonathan, let me ask you, what are some things that people can do to add more of a premium to their membership sites to allow for these different tiers?
Could you quantitate that a little bit more? What do you mean? Do you mean technology-wise, or do you?
No. Just what can you do to make what could be a difference between basic and pro level or premium level? What kinds of things can you add to the membership to have a higher tier?
Well, you know, you could add an additional module. You could add the ability to join not only the private Facebook, but a premier Facebook, where you have one-to-one consultation with the course creator. There's video. I think 2019 is going to be a big year again for video. I know we've talked about, you know, that goes against some of our previous episodes where we discussed that just having a series of videos does not make an engaging course. There's a lot more planning, but I think that's linked to all the things we just discussed in this episode about throwing the kitchen sink in, which then you do a ton of videos where you haven't even engaged with the audience to some degrees, and you're not actually done the last thing we talked about, which is actually ask them some questions, the audience you got. Hopefully you can see where this is going. There's consequence. It's like trying to build a house with dicey foundations. As you know, after about a year, you know, when you see the house cracks appearing, you realise it might have been a bit best to have spent a bit more time on the foundations a little bit. But there's multiple things, you know, offering PDFs, offering mini courses, as you know, as these bundles are more one-to-one contact with the instructor or instructors. These are all trends that we're seeing, aren't we, Cindy? Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the more access to you, obviously, the more that you can charge. The trade-off is it's more of an investment of your time in that membership versus just having it. But I think that you have, when you're worried about churn, I think the more access that you can get to you or to other people that are like-minded to you will help with kind of the churn rate of your membership site as well.
And kind of plan it out, realize about churn, realize that, and deal with it by offering more value in your subscription tiers. Try and place yourself in the students' shoes. Try and place yourself as, is when you were that beginner, then you were that intermediate, and then you were that expert. What were the things that you wanted to know? And any reasonable subject. We're not, I think when you get a lot of churn, I think it's a sign of deeper problems, really, in the course structure, because surely there should be extra value you could offer, and this is down to subscription net tiers, is that you should be, you've got the beginner's journey, and then you've got the intermediate journey, and then you've got the expert journey. And the expert, in any field doesn't stop learning. He can just focus his attention. A lot of the beginner intermediate has become subconscious, so they can actually focus their attention on more higher, but doesn't mean they don't stop learning, does it?
No, it just, the problems just change. They don't go away.
Problems all to the day humanity ends, folks. There will always be problems. I can assure you that. The day that we'll never get bored, because we make problems. Human beings are just fantastic at that. I think we're going to go for our break, Cindy, and when we come back, we're going to be delving a bit more into these points. Be back in a few moments, listeners and viewers. We're coming back. I've been waffling a little bit, but no, I think I've kept on subject. I think I've given some good insights. I'm in a cheery holiday mood. So on to number 3, and we better get on with this because it'll be like War and Peace. I think it's going to be a long one anyway. Upsell membership plans and add-ons. What did you think of this one, Cindy?
Again, Jonathan, how about you kind of share what you're always wanting, the interviewer, you're always wanting to ask me questions. So I'm going to throw it right back.
Amazing, Cindy.
This is your blog post that we're delving into. So again, kind of share your insight in terms of like, what do you mean by upsell membership plans and add-ons? What does that mean? There's the
technical side, and there's a thing. There's the actual specifics of it. As you know, I think if it's done in the right way, I actually think a lot of people like to be sold to. Actually, so don't be shy about offering add-ons. Obviously, don't go bananas, because some websites you go to, you're bombarded with pop-ups, add-ons. It's quite annoying. So there's a balance here. But add-ons can, intelligently thought out add-ons, and the ability of your shopping cart, your membership site, to be able to sell add-ons can make an enormous difference to your profitability, to your bottom line. It's something not discussed that much in actual membership learning management area, but in the e-commerce, it's a well-known practice. You find with a lot of the SaaS competition to WordPress that they're quite limited in their ability to do upsells in their platforms. But with WP-Tonic, we've added on our middle tier, tiers. We've added the ability to sell digital and physical products, and we're combining that with WooCommerce and with a product called Cart Flows, which is the joint founder Adam from WP Crafter came on the show, and I interviewed him recently, and he's the joint founder of Cart Flows, and it's just a great technology to help with your upsells, and we're going to be offering it as part of our fully hosted platform. But there's other SaaS platforms that offer similar opportunities, but just don't forget, it can make a big difference. And people, you know when you've done it right, because there just won't be resistance. They will just up buy. If you get a lot of resistance, that's more that the value proposition, or there's something deeper wrong with it.
Yeah, I think probably one of the common add-ons that I've seen is the course creators offering one-on-one coaching session. So one-on-one coaching session may not be part of the overall membership site, but having that initial sign-on to offer the offer like a coaching session, a kickstart session, has often been kind of a pretty common add-on that I've seen.
Well, it's also linked. It's also linked to our conversations about automation, about using things like ActiveCampaign, Drip, other CRM systems, and being able, not only their core technology, what you're also paying for is their back-end analytical data that they can show you that people went, of this funnel. They did all these steps. These people started at the top of this funnel, and you're not only paying for the tagging and for the internal technology or something like ActiveCampaign, you're also paying for the analytical, the data that they show you as well. And the reason why I bring this in, Cindy, is that it could be that the offering, the upsell, isn't a good enough value proposition, but it also might indicate that you're either offering it too early, you're offering it to the wrong subgroup. What I'm getting to is being able to integrate your membership into a CRM and seeing the kind of flows through your funnels gives you good indications when to do that upsell.
Right. No, that's a really good point too. And it's all about knowing your data, right? Which
I don't do.
But
I'm very good at preaching it, folks. But it's one of my key business resolutions of 2019 is that to get a bit more on top of the game of things that I'm preaching to you, because I don't want to end up being a hypocrite. But it's also very important. But it's only important in a more established membership. Don't hit yourself too hard if you're starting off, because you've got other things that you got to get the ball rolling, and then you start looking into these type of things, don't you, Cindy?
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Is you don't want to get yourself bogged down with data that isn't not giving you enough information to make educated decisions about. All right, are we ready to move on to tip number 4?
Yeah, number 4, create multiple content types. Obviously, I've just said that I still think video is powerful. I think the utilization of it, but it's not the only form that you got. Forums, downloadable PDFs in the membership, and especially in the learning management area, which WP-Tonic specialises in. So do you, Cindy, is that this whole debate of offering multiple content types is a big discussion, isn't it? And it, but it's very linked. Offering to, I was listening to another podcast from Chris Baddock, this joint CEO of Lifter, and he was talking to an expert, and talking about the kind of, I think it's 5 learning types, and I was going to actually do some outreach and hopefully get her to come on the show in February, because I thought she did an excellent job in Chris's podcast. Fortunately, I can't remember the lady's name, but it'll be in the show notes, folks. Is that the 5 types? But she said what a lot of people do to deal with those 5 types, they throw those 5 type of learning, not mechanisms, styles into their course, and they end up with just a complete mess. What she said is you want to kind of diverse. I haven't explained that coherently. What she said is, when I got a student, they offer different types of content to students that have different leanings in these 5s. She said that just ends up in a kind of mess. But what you want to do is you want to mix it up a bit in your course. Don't have it all video, or don't have it all PDFs. But also you've got to have some coherence. So that takes a bit of thought and work, doesn't it, Cindy?
Yeah, no, this is something I feel pretty strongly about, in terms of multiple content types, not only just from a learning style perspective, but also from a ease of access to your content. So, not everybody is sitting down to a computer learning your content nowadays. They may be they may be driving in the car, or there may be in various different ways of doing it. So if you give them access in multiple different mediums in order to consume that content, it makes them more likely to want to continue on or continue, because they may not be taking the time to sit down at their computer. My other point to kind of around this is, you might find that the people that follow you, your audience, will probably have a very similar learning style to you, because you resonate with them for one reason or another. So for example, I love to do video, and so I will probably attract people who like video as well. I was working with another client who was a writer, and I had to kind of balance, me wanting him to pull back on reading, but he's probably attracting the people who like to read. So from that perspective, I think that, rather than worrying about addressing all of the different learning styles, is, what is the learning style that you think your audience is? And it probably will be pretty close to how you deliver your content anyway, because that's who you've attracted based on the information, or based on what you're already providing to your audience.
I think that's a fabulous point there. Thanks for sharing that, Cindy. I think that was a glorious insight, as I would say. We better get on with these other last 3. I'm going to hurry up, because I think this is turning into me waffling on War and Peace. Facilitate discussions. I think that's linked to dropout rate, and that I think that's going to be a big thing in the next, how do you build community and real discussion? The problem is, a lot of people say, well, we'll just start a forum, or we'll start a Facebook group. Sounds easy, but actually takes a lot of time, resources, and like most things, there's a bit more to it than meets the eye, so I think it's probably down to discussion. I also think it's probably something not discussed, is there's some groups of people that probably don't want to discuss. It depends what your course is and what it's aimed at, isn't it? And are you going to build upon that first course? It really depends what you're up to. So what do you reckon, Cindy? Do you think it seems to be that it is really important, but the mechanics and also when you should do it aren't discussed that much, isn't it?
Yeah, I think my thought around this is you don't need to make it complicated. In terms of you don't need to take the ownership on yourself as the membership owner to come up with the content all of the time. Your users probably can bring that content to you. So just opening up the opportunity for them to ask questions, then you can come up, if you're facilitating a discussion, you can kind of manage it from that perspective, whereas they come to you with their problems rather than you kind of bringing up a new topic every time that you want to discuss.
But don't get me wrong, other people built up fantastic communities. I've got a community through my podcast, but you lot are a bit silent. I would love you to be a bit more vocal. We're going to, well, I'll be discussing that at some stage. We'll be doing things to try and encourage you to talk to us a bit more. We're very nice, aren't we, me and Cindy? Award certificates. Well, gamification, provided. I've never personally, when I've been on doing an online course, it's not something that really gets me going, I actually find, but other people love it, don't they? They just, it's a methodology that scientifically and in practical terms does work. But is it because I'm English and I'm just dour, Cindy?
I don't know. It's the same thing for me. Having awards or certificates doesn't resonate, but it certainly does for other people. My husband, for example, he loves like any kind of badges he can get or what have you, whatever game he's playing.
So is this how you've managed to train him, Cindy?
Yeah, well, exactly. I give him badges for washing the dishes. It works fabulous.
Got a little board where he's got his awards for being a good husband, has he?
Yeah, I should leverage that more often. I hadn't really I don't think I'm maximizing that opportunity.
There we go. And to finish off, cover data. Well, I think we've actually touched that during the conversation, and I've omitted my woeful ineptitude on it to some extent. Seems easy, but collecting data, even through Google Analytics, or Google Webmaster Tools, or with the data provided if you're using a CRM, and if you've got a successful growing membership site, I think utilizing a CRM is really important to provide that data and provide those funnels which will upscale. I think the main point I would make this is, we all like new sales, but if you've got holes in your bucket and the people falling out, it's not such a great business methodology. So upselling, doing all the things we've just discussed during the show, you find that the cost is reduced, the profitability increases dramatically. The people inside your course, they should be your main referral resource, because they should be talking about how great your course is. These are all factors. What do you reckon, Cindy?
Yep, I agree 100%. I think that the best way to retain people is to give them pretty good stuff to begin with, to give them what they want. And again, the best way to know that is to ask them what they need. So,
yep. So we're going to wrap it up. We've got some great guests coming up in January. Cindy's going to be helping us get some good guests in February. I think we've had a great 2018 listeners. If you could go to iTunes and give us a review, that'd be great. I've actually got a link on the show pages that will take you straight to iTunes to give us a review. That helps us get really interesting guests that can share their knowledge and value. And we'll see you next week, where we're going to have a great guest interview. See you soon, folks. Bye.
Bye.